Welcome everybody to Too Legit to Crit, a tabletop role-playing podcast hosted by two guys who could be AI if that meant absolutely fuck all intelligence.
Oh, it's why do you always have to cut me so deep with these intros?
I don't know. I felt that was topical.
Yeah,
I think we have covered a lot of AI recently, and just having that as the intro, kind of worked. And I know that somebody somewhere has heard that and heard me say AI, and all of a sudden clenched up like a fucker.
Yeah. Yep. Right here.
My name is John Santana.
I am still Justin. Not changing that.
Justin, every now and again, you and I do discuss about how we have no fucking clue what we're doing on this show.
Yes.
And how nobody should really listen to us at all.
Absolutely.
And so I thought it might be a good idea to actually bring someone on today who does know what they're talking about to kind of class up the joint a tiny bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against that. I think that'd be a good shout. Mm-hmm.
All right, well, it is my great pleasure to introduce Jonny from TalkingXP. Jonny, how's it going, man?
It's going well. Just a little tired from a super long road trip, but I'm here and I'm ready to talk. Let's get into it.
When you told me that earlier, my question was, are you going to be all right?
Yeah. So we started driving at, I think it was 3 p.m. of Pacific time because I'm in the States, obviously from the accent. So Southern California to about middle of Oregon is about a 16.5-hour drive. So we started at around like 3 p.m.-ish, hit some traffic, and then finally got here at around 7 in the morning, around there. So yeah, it's good.
So how much coffee have you kind of consumed?
Yes.
So pretty much. Yeah. That is the right answer. So it's so weird because like yesterday, it's weird to say that. Yesterday I had like 2 cups of coffee, and then I had a Monster like sometime between yesterday and today, and the rest of it was a blur. So I honestly can't give you an accurate number.
Just an adrenaline fueled blur
exactly
as you're rocking that sugar high.
Yeah. Yep. A lot of Monster energy, caffeine, as well as a lot of Critical Role catching up because God, I've been so behind on stuff that like I actually caught up because of how long the road trip is. It's great.
Oh yeah. No, that is not a drive that I am jealous of in any way, shape, or form. So yeah.
I don't think I've ever done any single thing in my entire life for 16 hours.
Like just straight.
No, fuck that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I'm a Spaniard, so I've not even been awake for that long.
It's true. Those daytime naps, man, you gotta love them.
I have done this drive because I used to live in Southern California. Like that's where I grew up. And then I went to college in Oregon. So I had made this drive at least like 7 or 8 times, or more than that actually, because there's been, a lot more than 10. We'll go with that. So this is just another time of the year that I'm making this drive now because that's how it goes. With family in Southern California.
Yeah.
But I mean, like over here, we don't have that sort of distance to traverse. So like if we're on a long drive, which for us is 3 to 4 hours, maybe 5, we probably pack a few sweets. I mean, what the fuck do you pack for 16 hours?
So we were supposed to have packed, my friend, his mom makes Salvadorian food. It's pupusas, which is like a tortilla type bread that has like beans or cheese or other types of things inside of it. We were supposed to have packed that, but we forgot it in my wife's parents' fridge. So that was cool. But outside of that, Cheetos. Hot Cheetos.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right.
I literally just finished a bag of Cheetos. That's quite funny.
You go through like an entire bag at least 1.5, 1 depends on, the type of drive you're taking. But yeah, it was, yeah.
Well, all this is to say we appreciate you massively joining us, even more so now that we know the ordeal that you've had to go through just to get here.
No big deal.
So I'm fairly certain that people know more about who you are than we.
Which is wild. Wild, by the way. Like I'm still in that whole like imposter syndrome realm of stuff. So yeah, no, I'm with you on the whole. People don't really know me.
100% they know who you are. I think people will be tuning in for the first time and going, "Who are these two English
good,
fucks?"
Yeah,
good.
Who the fuck are these other two? Shut up!
Can we just mute them and listen to Jonny talk for an hour and a half?
Just hit mute on both individually.
Yeah, it's fine. The one in red looks dodgy. Fuck him. So why don't you tell us a bit about yourself? What sort of things have you been doing? I know I've been doing my homework, but for our listeners out there who doubtfully don't know you, and for Justin, because I know he probably doesn't.
Right? Yeah. So, man, I recently have been getting a lot more into Candela Obscura. Typically I run on Mondays a D&D podcast where I'm running Curse of Strahd, but yeah, recently I've been getting into Candela Obscura, which has been really cool because I really have only ran D&D 5e. So getting into a new system like Candela, which is so different from D&D, has been really cool just in general for understanding how to run the game and stuff like that. But yeah, I did a whole how to learn Candela Obscura or how to play Candela Obscura series on YouTube, and which ended up getting Darrington Press's attention, apparently, which was pretty fucking sweet. They sent me an email one night. They were like, "Hey, we want to send you a thing." I was like, "Oh, yeah." So got the book for that, which is great. But yeah, that I have a few actual plays that I've recorded and posted on my YouTube channel as well on that Candela playlist on YouTube, which is great. So I have like how to play and then examples of how to play, and but outside of that, I've been doing just random like one-offs as well. Like we had this DMVDM little thing where we had like one DM controlling a team of goblins, and then I think I was the goblins, and then another DM that was controlling the kobolds, and then we had another DM that was like kind of running stuff. So we had like us just fighting for a specific, like, it was kind of like capture the flag kind of setup. It was super cool for the first part, and then the second part was I ran Tiamat, the aspect of Tiamat, and then Jack Gogsbane is his name, his social media handle. He was running his like homebrew, like really powerful dragon, and he likes to go for those like high powered, like, we stop at 20, but we can keep going if you really want to kind of campaigns. So his dragon was like super buff and like did a whole bunch of damage. It was super cool. I really enjoyed doing that. And then I just started a new series called Sliding Out of the DMs, where we bring a bunch of forever DMs and we actually get to play a game. It was super cool. I had a great cast of folks on that, and we're actually going to be coming back a little bit later. But outside of that, that's pretty much what I've been doing, and then doing stuff like this and appearing on podcasts and hanging out with friends, all that.
I mean, it's absolutely amazing, because I first kind of bumped into you on Threads, which, over the past few weeks, I've been singing its praises massively because of that.
Threads is a wild,
It's mad, isn't it? It's insane. Just this community that's been created, like creatives, tabletop role playing players and GMs and everything. And that's where I kind of first started following you. And when we started talking, I started listening to your D&D show, which, to be fair, is the closest I'm ever going to get to learning about the Curse of Strahd. But yeah, it's fantastic, and it's the Ravenloft Mist-fits.
Yeah. I came up with a name because, oh god, we had random. I can't remember what I think it was like Barovia Misfits before, like without the T, and then I was like, nah, let's do. And then I ended up making that pun with the mist and fits at the very end, and I think it's perfect. I think it totally fits the vibe of this campaign. It's so. Yeah, it's perfect.
It is really good, and I must say I do enjoy your GM style.
It's
very fluid, very moving. There's not much sort of delay in anything, which even because I know, actual players do have to kind of change their gaming style for the cameras. But even other actual players that I've seen, there's always a bit of delay. You are very quick on the draw. You are very quick to kind of, all right, I want to do this. I want to attack, and the description comes almost immediately, and it's engaging, which is a really hard thing to accomplish. So well done on that.
Thank you. That's actually one of the things that I always wanted to make sure that I did, and actually I don't if I'm being completely honest, I don't think I really changed my DMing style too much for the show. I think one of the things with my style, though, is that it is made for this kind of stuff. Like, I DM'd very similar to what I saw in, like, Matt Mercer and Brennan and all of the, top DMs that you see all over the internet, where it's like, quick, you get the description, you know what you're doing. Okay, cool. What's your turn? And then go to the next, and then go to the next, and because also it is required to do that during combat because of how fucking long it takes to do D&D 5e combat. Like, it's one of those things, like, to keep anybody engaged, you have to keep it going. Like, if you don't, then it's just disconnect, and then oh, sorry, it's my turn. They're texting over there. It's like, yeah, no, I get it. Don't worry. But yeah, like, actually, it's pretty funny too, because my in-home game, it was actually not really a great mesh sometimes with, like, my DMing style and the way that they wanted to play, because it was they wanted to play more modular, where it's like, fuck travel time, who cares? Let's just show up at the place, kill some monsters, go back, do the things, and I wanted more of, like, RP and, like, delving into the story that I have behind the screen and stuff like that, which ended up wanting me to, like, motivating me. There you go. That's the word I was looking for. It ended up motivating me to create TXP and creating Ravenloft Mist-fits, because there was, like, that piece that I was missing in my DMing. And I think that it definitely, like, fit the puzzle piece, and it was, like, perfect. So, but thank you. I appreciate the compliments.
No, it's honestly, I've listened. I haven't really got that far into it because I don't really have time to listen to podcasts as much anymore. But I think about 3 or 4 episodes in, and it is fantastic. It's definitely made me more interested to hear more. Like I said, I'm not going to play Curse of Strahd, so it's my way of kind of engaging with the story.
Exactly. That's kind of like the audience, where it's like, I mean, you could try and play Curse of Strahd, but, like, I understand how fucking impossible it is to find a DM and 3 or 4 other players to meet consistently weekly, or even every 2 weeks. I get it.
That's not the reason that John's not going to be playing Curse of Strahd.
Oh, really now?
He is not a big fan of 5e. I'm the 5e person here. I
get that.
He's not a big fan of 5e. So yeah, it's although saying that, I've basically played 5e for the entirety of, apart from the intro to, like, tabletop role-playing games where I played Pathfinder. Me and John started at the same time, the same campaign there. But ever since then, I've pretty much exclusively been 5e. I've still never played any of, like, the big 5e like stuff like Curse of Strahd, Tomb of Annihilation. I still haven't played any of them. And it's one of those where it's for how long I've been playing it, to have not played those almost feels like a sin at this point.
They have it's not necessarily a saying, but there is an assumption essentially amongst the sort of Pathfinder community. When someone posts on like one of the boards or something, oh yeah, I've just finished this adventure path, there's almost a celebration because the amount of adventure paths that kind of start and fizzle out, just because of table logistics and care and interest. That's what I was going to say too. Is like I've started Tomb of Annihilation, I've started Storm King's Thunder, I've started a previous Curse of Strahd game. It's like once you start getting into like the meat of the campaign, that's when everybody's like, all right, I don't have a new character anymore, or I don't really know where we're going in this campaign, or this is taking a lot more of a toll in my scheduling, or I have adult things that I have to do, which totally understandable. All of them.
That pesky being adult thing gets in the way a lot, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. God, I miss COVID.
That's where this came from. That's where TXP came from with COVID, because I was like, I need to do something. And yeah, I'm so glad I did. Like this is what I've wanted to do for a while. Yeah, I mean the amount of gaming I got done during that time was just fucking it was wrong almost.
See, I had the opposite because like I mean I really struggle, and John knows this because he's tried to include me in a few of his games. I really struggle with playing online.
I get that,
it's entirely a me thing. It's not like any other thing. It's just anytime I'm playing online, because of the amount of distractions I've got on my PC.
Yeah.
And with multiple monitors as well. It's so easy to be like, okay, I'll pull up the campaign there and I'll do something over here and I'll do something else over here. And then you're like, oh, we finished? Oh, okay. I didn't take in any of that.
Right. Yeah. No, I 100% get that. And that is, I think, one of the other things that I had with my home game too, is that like, I personally have ADHD, and then a lot of my players have ADHD. So it was like one of those things where it's like, hey, so and then we're gonna go to you, and then we're gonna go to you. Oh, sorry, me. And it's like, yeah, you, and then all that stuff. But it's been a lot more smooth doing it on stream because everybody's like here for a reason. This is why I am here, rather than like 3 monitors of doing whatever you're doing.
I think that's it as well. Like, I mean, it's because I even struggle like sometimes playing like video games. I'll struggle sometimes as well because I end up playing like 3 or 4 accounts at once. Because I just need something to kind of go, right, okay, that's happening, so I can do something over here now. But it's I mean, I also have a form of ADHD. So it is definitely that gives me the issues. But I don't know, there's something about playing at the table for me that doesn't become a problem. And I think it's partially just because like if I do start to wander, it'll be to have a conversation with somebody at the table, or it's still around the table, if that makes sense. And I think that's whereas the online games, I always struggle with that because you can't have a conversation with player B because then you're just talking over the game because you're all on the same like voice channel and stuff. And so that was always a bit of a struggle for me.
And it's always, and I'm guessing it's the accessibility to distractions that you have when you're playing online, because you are sat in front of a computer, you are sat in front of what for many of us is our entire world, our entire entertainment system. So sat in front of it and trying to pay attention. In the meantime, I'm just going to kind of go over here and start looking shit up. Whereas at a table, everything kind of surrounds the game in general, whether you're talking to someone next to you or whether you're looking at the book that's in front of you. It's all within the same activity, as it were.
Yeah. And you don't have 3 monitors.
And you don't have 3 monitors.
Well,
Oh, really now?
And I think Justin knows now that looking at porn whilst playing at the table is normally frowned upon.
So why do you keep doing it?
As
listen.
As a GM, I've got my rights.
I mean, so at my table, there is still a lot of screens, mainly because I have a TV like battle map and stuff like that.
Yeah. I have one of those too.
It's so much fun.
it's so cool. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
Like I'll have my laptop behind the screen and then just like put up the map, put some minis on it. Yeah. It's super cool.
I mean, I've also got I've got 2 3D printers, and I've got like a next to on this side of where I'm sitting now as well. I've got like a bunch of stuff for making foam terrain pieces and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
The next part that I'm getting into is going to be the 3D printing. I still don't have one. I don't have I've kind of just like told myself that I'm going to hold off until I have a house because I'm still in apartment living because the US is fucked, but that's another story.
That's a different podcast.
Different podcast. I'm just kind of holding myself back because I'm like, I don't have that much room in here. I want to get a 3D printer, but at the same time, they
don't take up a lot of space.
You got to be careful with Justin because he is a salesman.
Yes.
The amount of money I've had to fucking spend
do you
since
have
starting this podcast.
Do you have space for a 1 meter desk anywhere?
Say no. No.
I might.
Because both of my 3D printers are sitting in a 1 meter space.
Okay.
They don't take a lot of space. And then
you're gonna have to send me a link.
Definitely.
Because I also haven't done any research into any of the 3D printers, so that'll be my next step then.
You want to get a resin one and a filament one, and we'll leave it there.
Cool. Yeah. All right.
Otherwise, we'll go down a big rabbit hole, and John will just sit there.
You guys crack on. I know you get off on people spending money, Justin. It's
very much so.
Kink.
Yeah,
I'm not here to shame you. You lean into that.
But yeah, no. So the resin one is for your minis because it gets a much finer detail on them, and then the filament one you'll use for like terrain pieces, so like little bridges and stuff like that.
Okay.
Because you don't care so much about the detail on those because they're just like background pieces.
And I'm guessing filament is like a little bit cheaper than it is resin and stuff, so
it tends to like be a bit of a quicker print as well. So that's why it's really good for the terrain pieces. And then the minis, obviously you want those to be really detailed, like because especially then you could do them like for your players and stuff. Because there's a bunch of websites where they can go like you've got like Hero Forge and there's a bunch of other ones where you can go and like customize it, and then you buy the Estelle file for like I think it's like $7.99 or something like that.
It's cheap,
and then you just print it out yourself. Like it's so easy.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm not even partaking in this conversation. I don't have the space. I don't have the interest, and I've never had the interest in minis. Just because I can't be fucked painting them. For sure. Painting them is kind of a big hurdle to like. A big mountain to look at, just like holy shit, I need to get all of the paints, I need to actually be good at painting, I need to know how to do like the undercoat and the overcoat, and then what do I put on the outside of it, and yada 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 yada. So which I'm sure could like all be fixed in like one simple YouTube video, but like
I can fix it for you now. There's contrast paints where basically all you do is you do a base coat of roughly the color you want, contrast paint, and that gives you all of the detail. Job done.
Right on.
Yeah, I would still find a way to fuck that up.
Oh, right, I do, but it's also one of those things like
I would use a red paint and somehow it would end up yellow.
Great job.
But that's the thing. Then that's a yellow one. It's fine. Yeah. You got to remember, like at the end of the day, all of this isn't like. No, nobody's going to sit here saying, but like, those are meant to be red.
And if you do have somebody at your table, tell them to fuck off.
Yeah,
like actually,
that's actually a door. I suggest you use it.
Yeah, tell me what color that is, motherfucker.
Yeah.
What color's the door? And what about on the other side? And just close it for me.
Go tell me what the other side of the door is. Yeah. So good.
Back in the days when I used to like do Warhammer, I just used to pay somebody to paint them for me.
That is the other option. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a lot of
Warhammer,
things on like Fiverr and stuff where you can get that done as well. Yeah.
Fiverr. That's a good point. I always forget that Fiverr is a thing. Like, yeah, that's a great place to find a painter to just Because Warhammer, especially like those, that's heavy mini.
And I mean, some of those guys are just insanely good at painting as well.
Yeah.
Like we've got a Warhammer shop near where we live, and I go in there like all the time because it's literally down the road from me. And I go in there all the time, and like I paint stuff, and obviously because I do the minis and the terrains, and I go in there with some of the stuff I've painted, and I put it next to the stuff that they've painted. I'm like, oh, I'm going home.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take this back home.
yeah. It's like, oh, is that the time? Look at that. Throw them in a box, walk out the door,
and then like 20 minutes prior, you're like, man, this looks really cool. I want to go show it off.
Yeah.
And then, never mind, never again.
Yeah, and like I think the worst thing was the one time I went down there. So I had a bunch of things that I'd painted, and I was really proud of how they turned out. And I went down there, not to like show them off, like just to like go and play a bit. And there was another guy that had the same army, and his paint job was like,
oh no,
astronomically better than mine. And I was just like, I walked in, like I had them all out, and I was ready to play. And then he put his out on the table. I was like, oh, okay.
So I'm just gonna collect. Let's go.
So I'm gonna go get something to eat real quick.
Did you not try blagging it and just swapping out one of his minis for yours?
But I was like,
was that
these aren't finished yet.
Yeah, I'll just kind of pick one of his up. I think that one's mine, isn't it? It's gonna go in my box.
Swap. Yeah.
Oh, but yeah.
He gets home and opens his box and goes, "Fuck, what?
Who the fuck did this one?
Was I drunk?
Who painted this? A 3-year-old?"
So I want to go back. John, you don't like D&D 5e?
No.
Why? I'm curious. Not that like your opinion is like bad, but like I'm just curious what you don't like about the system.
Well, initially it was I did try it. I started trying to run the was it Horde of the Dragon Queen?
Oh yeah, I ran that before.
So I did start running that. I ran a couple of levels of it. And back then I was very married to Pathfinder. I was very much kind of like Justin is now with 5e, but with Pathfinder. So that kind of put me off.
Sure.
But I kind of do acknowledge that was somewhat unfair on my part. However, since then, my logic has always been, I have a high fantasy system that I enjoy, that works for me. I've got no interest in trying out something else. Then that's kind of evolved into somewhat of an anti-establishmentarianism of, this system gets far more recognition than I feel it deserves. Not to say anything about the system itself, but how people are so... Then we've got the company on top of that. And that has just cemented my, fuck this. I am not
totally
touching
understand. And honestly, like that is super valid. Are you playing Pathfinder just 1E, or did you hop over to 2E?
No, I made the switch to 2E. It's
cool.
It is a really good system.
Yeah, I just briefly looked over, and we did like one random one shot where actually in our Ravenloft Mist-fits, like our cast actually played it, and it was what did we call it? Curse of Sean. And it was like this one-off like little thing where like our characters were morphed into like some other universe where we made them into Pathfinder 2E characters. We played a one-shot that was ran by one of our players, and it was so much fun. It was great. But that was one of the first introductions. That was the introduction for me playing Pathfinder 2E, and I loved it because of how like versatile all of the character creation is. Like you can pick so many different routes. Like, obviously, there's the clear route of like, if you're making the alchemist and you want to make, the bomber, like there's obviously every time that you get a new feat, there is a bomber type, but then there's more on top of that you can then create. And you could also go down the like the healing type or the more mutation type. It's super interesting. But yeah, I don't blame you for not heading over to D&D if you already have Pathfinder, because that's kind of the exact position that I'm in, except opposite,
Yeah, and
it just sucks that D&D's company.
Yeah, they kind of screwed us a little bit, not gonna lie.
That's like the one thing.
I mean, there's a lot to like about 5e. I like the advantage-disadvantage mechanic. I like lair actions. I like legendary actions for creatures. I think it makes them really sort of versatile and makes them unique, which you don't get in any other system. But it's a lot of it is the sort of fan base of the rabid fan base of, okay, so I'm gonna just get this system which is designed for high fantasy and hammer it into a Lovecraftian horror when there are 1,000 systems out there that do that
Cthulhu,
much better.
Or Monster of the Week, if you really want to try that out.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I love Monster of the Week.
Monster of the Week is great.
It's so
great.
good.
I haven't... It's so funny. Like, I talk about all of these different types of TTRPGs that I've looked into, but I've never played. But like, Monster of the Week is great. Like, I'm just
so
looking over it. It looks like it's so much fun. Like, you just create this monster, you go and investigate, and you get to do whatever the fuck you want. Like it's super applicable to anything.
The guy that runs our Fabula Ultima game, he also has run a couple of Monster of the Week sessions for. I think you've played one as well, haven't you, John?
Yeah, I played one with Chris.
Yes, and me and Scott played in another one that was eventually he was going to bring all four of us together into one as well.
That's cool.
But scheduling and whatnot just never happened, unfortunately.
Right.
Those great adulting things we discussed earlier. But like
bane of our
for
existence.
For someone like me who's like, I love Supernatural, the TV show.
Oh.
To then play that, I was like, oh, this is just Supernatural, like in a game. This is amazing. I loved it. And it's just so good. Like, because it takes like all of those like supernatural type shows, like, Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Supernatural and all of the other variations therein. And like, you want to play that character? Cool. There's a way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I did enjoy Monster of the Week. Again, huge Supernatural fan. And it just gave me the ability to. I think I was playing like a Dean sort of character.
Same.
So I was being a bit of a dick, but that's just me in general. So while we're on the topic of systems, Jonny, you, like you said earlier, you are very invested in Candela Obscura, which is something that we have mentioned. We've never actually covered it on the show. So could you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. Yeah. So Candela Obscura is actually really simple. It's based off of the Blades in the Dark system. Which, I mean, if you know how that works, you're pretty much like 90% of the way there. They just kind of relabel a lot of the things. So one of the things with Blades in the Dark is that your rolls are based on like flashbacks that you have, whereas in this, Candela Obscura, it's more present. 1 through 3s are obviously a fail. 4 and 5 is a mixed success. God, it's so hard to say that sometimes. Mixed success. And then 6 is a full success, whereas if you get multiple 6s, it's a crit. So with that base system, you have one of the hardest things, I guess, as a GM, in my opinion, is those mixed successes and figuring out what happens. Because like, they succeed, but what is that cost that you're putting into there? Like, do they take damage? But why do they take damage? Like, you can't have them like trying to, lock pick a door and then take a body mark, because how would that happen? Like, they could, and then a brain mark for trying to pick a lock doesn't make any sense, and then bleed maybe depending on the lock itself, but it's hard to do that. But then that's when I started bringing in like fears of the players. So or not the players, the characters.
Yeah.
But I would ask the players, I'd be like, hey, give me one or two fears that you're willing to explore in this game. That way, if I am in this corner of there is literally nothing that I can do to give you a cost because it's like you succeed or you don't, and that's it. That's when I'd start bringing in like character information and like maybe flashbacks of like how they were before and how that is similar to what this is now and how that like creates this fear. And that has been super helpful. But outside of that, it's very similar to Call of Cthulhu and Monster of the Week, where it's like it's one shot based. You have something that is, you know, at the end of this one shot, you investigate, you grab it, you bring it back to Candela Obscura, you figure out the whole weave of the story and how this monster or thing or whatever this is, this phenomenon, occurred, and you try to help as much as you can, minimize damage while securing whatever it is. So one of the things that I really compare it to is, I don't know if you've ever played the game Control. It is a video game based on mundane items having like extraordinary abilities. So like there was a stoplight that would, you know, make you stop as you're trying to like rush towards it, or yellow and green. And then there was, if you did try, oh no, that's right. It was basically playing red light, green light. So if you were trying to rush up and grab it and it hit red, you would start from the beginning and then you'd have to do it all over again. And there's like, I can't remember what the item was, but it was something, it was like a toaster or something. And if you took your eyes off of it, it disappeared, or it like grew bigger or something like that. And so you find these like random logs all throughout this like vault that they have of all of these. I think they actually call it phenomenon as well. And it's, that one is more like the wacky side of stuff, whereas this one is more of like the horror side of stuff. Like if you stop looking at this thing, it starts approaching you or something like that. I don't know if you guys have seen that. Like,
Doctor
Who.
Yeah, Doctor Who.
No, there's a YouTube short
Oh.
of this guy that gives somebody a box, and inside there's just like this black hole, and every time he looks away from it, there's like a guy that's in there, right? And every time you look away, he's just like a little bit higher up. And it is terrifying. You should watch it. It's crazy. I'll have to find the name of it, but it is, gosh, it is so terrifying. But anyways, yeah, it kind of delves into that like horror side of investigating, and, you know, taking a lot of Mark's more like scars. Like you're not unscathed going through these investigations, and it really leans into that because it is pretty dangerous. You can get to that point of like taking scars and going unconscious pretty quickly if you're not super careful.
I mean, I find it interesting that you compare it to Blades in the Dark, because I am very aware of Blades. Ran it a few times, thoroughly enjoy it. So no doubt, I think if I were to play Candela, I'd thoroughly enjoy that too. There are a couple of things that you said that obviously, because you said like body marks and brain marks, is that essentially their equivalent to the damage track?
Right. Yeah. So marks basically work. There's a set of 3 that, well, actually 4 technically. You have 3 that you're like keeping track of, and if you go over that, that's when you become incapacitated. That's when you get a scar, and that's when you actually take one of those action points that you have, and you actually move it into a new one. And that's supposed to be like a lesson learned from why you got your scar, how you're going to be being different, how you're going to be playing your character differently. And
that's interesting.
Yeah, I like that.
Super interesting, because now that's like the first time that you can have like a 3-point action. So like move is like rushing and dodging and you know, just running away from something or catching something. And then there's like strike, which is like fighting and things like that. Hide, of course, and control, which is like shooting, driving, and doing like more finesse stuff. but you're not able to get 3 points in the very beginning of when you create your character, and you only level up every 4-ish assignments. So you're like, it's pretty dangerous, and the probability of you making it through those 4 adventures, and even the probability of your GM even having more than 4 ideas for different one shots, like, alone is not really probable. So this is like kind of the first way that you can actually get those 3, and you kind of have to have as many dice as you can.
Yeah.
Which is where you also have drive points. Those are like, each drive point has just 1d6 that you add to your roll. And the only way to get those back is gilded die, which is a different colored dice. It's their way of like keeping you able to at least succeed a little bit of the time. But your gilded die are only specific actions that you have, which is like your character's specialty.
Okay.
So, yeah. So you use drive quite a lot. So in the character creation, you get one that's specific to your specialty. You have roles and specialties, which is like class and subclass.
Yeah.
But there's one gilded action specific to your specialty, and then one that you get to pick. So I always encourage people to pick the one that like you think you're going to be using a lot with your character, because if you don't, you're missing out on a lot of resources. And that's one of the biggest cruxes of Candela, which is like, if you go crazy with your resources on like a 3-shot, session 2 and 3 are going to be tough, because you have like resistances where you get to, if you fail something, you get to re-roll with however many action points you have, not drive points, because you could have like 5 on this roll, fail all of them, and you can have like 1 action point in like a hide action or something like that. Fail all those 5, you go back, you use a resistance to re-roll just 1 and hope for the best. And then you have so you have those, and then you have like in between each assignment, you have your Candela resources that you could use, but you only have the amount of players plus 1 of resources that you can use throughout your there's like this illumination tracker to keep track of your leveling. By the end of it, it refreshes your resources. So pretty much every 4 assignments that you have, that's when it refreshes. And each of them are specific to one player. So like you can refresh one player's marks. You can refresh one player's drives and resistances. So that makes it a lot more like you need to be strategic in how you use your resources. Like, do you really need to use 3 drive points to persuade this guard that, you know, you have a bigger, you know, whatever than they do? Like, you really need to use it? Like,
yes.
Probably. All right. And you know what? Like that. No.
Absolutely.
But like, it is definitely, I really enjoy it in terms of horror because of that reason, where it's like, you start off, you're good. Yeah, cool, whatever. And sometimes, you know, you're a little bit stingy because you want to make sure that you have resources going forward. And then it just gets worse. Just worse and worse and worse. It's so good.
I do think that's the keystone of a good horror game.
Yeah.
Because you can get horror in D&D, you can get horror in Pathfinder, and yeah, narratively there are these horrific elements. But until you start on precious resources and chipping away at that, the horror doesn't set in. My favorite horror game is Delta Green, where you've got your sanity, where everything you do, it picks away and you become more and more unstable, and there are quite dire consequences because of that. Blades in the Dark, you've got your stress. That anything that happens, you can resist damage, but you're going to take stress instead. And then they do also have like a long-lasting effect. These are not things that, I'm going to have a night in a tavern, I'm going to sleep well.
It'll be fine.
Cleric's going to cleric, and I'm going to feel fine in the morning.
Yeah.
When you
just
have
an 8-hour nap.
Yeah. It's amazing what 8 hours of sleep will do.
I don't know. I haven't had 8 hours sleep in the past 8 years.
Same.
But yeah, when you have a horror element that does chip away at those resources, it becomes very claustrophobic, very real, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
And I think that's fantastic. And I did see Justin get visibly aroused when you referenced resource management. And he just went, huh.
Yeah, I mean,
it's us. I love it.
What are the actually okay? So not really specifically resources with your character, but resources like in the game. One of the really interesting things about Candela as well is like you have gear that you can use, and you have a maximum of 3 that you can pick per assignment, right? But you don't have to pick them until it becomes relevant. So you're playing, and it's like to simulate like your investigators are ready and they know what they're doing and they're preparing themselves.
Yeah.
So like there's like bleed detectors, there's bleed containment vials, there's chemist equipment and things like that you can have, as well as like actual weapons like handgun and stuff like that. But like you don't have to pick that in the very beginning, and that's one thing that I actually really like outside of that resource management, because it fucking sucks to pick a chemical, chemist equipment, and then you go in and you're like,
oh, I didn't need that.
There is absolutely 0 applications for this item. Great, I'm fuck all today.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to do that.
I think that's quite a modern system thing, because I think that's probably one of the things that is borrowed from Blades in the Dark, because they do the same sort of thing.
That kind of flashback thing.
Right.
No,
exactly. The flashback.
The resource management is where you pick light, moderate, or heavy, depending on the load you want to carry, and that gives you a certain amount of items, which you can say, okay, I've got rope. However, it does take away one thing. I love it when I'm GMing Pathfinder and they're preparing to go out on whatever quest and they start buying all this shit unnecessarily, and it just fills me with joy. Oh yeah, so we're gonna need holy water. No, you're not. Fucking go for it. Spend that gold.
Right. Yeah.
I think as well, like the thing for me that with the whole resource management and stuff like that, and having them be like so vital, is it also kind of creates like an atmosphere around the table as well. Because if a player goes to use a resource, everyone else is like, why? Why are you using that?
And not only that, but like you can feel the tension.
Yeah.
When there's like a really high stakes roll and you're out of drive points and you don't have a resistance and you have 1 point in this action, and this is literally life or death. Like everybody is holding their breath to see if you get like a 4, 5, or a 6. Let's hope to God it's a 6, but I mean, I'll take a 4 and a 5 to get that mixed success. But like, you can feel it. And even online, like I've had, I think 6 different sessions now, and I'm planning a 7th. All of them have had those points where like, and even in just one shot, all of them have had that point where like everybody's like, oh my God, are we gonna die right now? Like, is this? And like, that's one of the secrets too of Candela, which is like, you need to get 4, like once you hit 4 scars, that's when you're dead. That takes 16 different marks in a row to get to that point, which is a lot. But more than that, you also have like, the other marks that you could take during that time. And you can also refresh your marks. So it doesn't necessarily mean just those 16 marks. But it also like, it's one of those things that like is terrifying, because you're like, if I get a scar, I'm just that much closer to death and I'll have to move like one of my action points, yada, yada, yada. But like, it's one of those things where like, you're not really gonna die per se unless you go incapacitated in the mouth of the monster and everybody leaves you. Like then you're shit out.
Yeah, it's over at that point.
That sounded like experience.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That sounded like something that's happened at your table.
So listen,
not to call anyone out, but yes.
Yeah, that one was more of a D&D thing, but still, it could happen in Candela Obscura. So yeah, I mean, like, you're not really gonna get that close to death unless you're just really terrible with your rolls. Like, and that happens too. But I think one oh yeah, Justin, you're the one. Yeah.
Yep. Justin's rolls are a thing of legend.
Yep. I make Will Wheaton look like he rolls well.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
It's so funny.
If there is ever a critical moment, do not get me to roll the dice.
Oh,
Speaking of
no.
which, I'm actually getting dice out for the questions.
Oh yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, no, like me and dice rolling is it doesn't go well.
It's a love-hate relationship. Like, you love rolling dice, but the dice hate you.
Yeah, all dice.
Cool.
I even so this is how bad it was. I rolled so many nat ones that I was like, well, this is just terrible. Then I found it was like a war game where rolling ones is good and 20s is bad. So I was like, sweet, I'm gonna play that. I rolled nothing but 20s.
20s, yep.
Nothing but
That's how it
20s.
works. Yep.
I think it's fantastic.
I
provides
strongly
me with-
disagree.
Endless amounts of entertainment.
The only time I roll well is if I'm DMing. So, like,
God, and doesn't that just suck sometimes too? It's like you. Okay, I know. Okay, Justin, you and I are on the same page with CR. CR is fucking bullshit.
yes, I ignore it.
You try as much.
Yeah.
I had an encounter like a couple weeks ago that was like supposed to be a difficult, not like deadly, but difficult. It turned out to be deadly out of nowhere, and I was like, well, shit. And then I kept rolling really well, like crits every other turn. Like, it was off, and it's crazy how that can change an entire encounter with just like a couple crits. Yeah.
It very quickly goes from like, oh yeah, this is going to be a pretty decent fight to, oh, you're all okay.
Okay.
Quick, think of some dialogue.
Right.
But to be honest, the CR system, I had problems with that in Pathfinder First Edition as well. Because it is essentially this is the same math.
Yeah.
And
it's
a
pretty much
shit
D&D
system.
3.5, right?
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
It's like
it was.
Yeah.
It's the CR system is really shit.
It just doesn't work.
It's lethal at low levels. It gets insignificant at high levels.
Yeah.
And
that's
I do
the
hope that
part.
when they bring out D&D 1, although it's not called
It's not called 1
D&D
D&D anymore. It's just D&D.
It's D&D 1. 1 D&D. 2 D&D. I don't give a shit. I'm hoping that they do actually fix that in a way.
I think the problem you're going to have, right, is a lot of the issues with CR comes from people not utilizing or not utilizing, that's the wrong word, but like not putting together or the party dynamic not being set for that particular thing.
Right.
Like, for example, an intro session that I was a player in was entirely built for my cleric to shine, right? It was like meant to be the big intro for my cleric, do a thing, got thrown up against some creatures that with a cleric there should have been really easy. What the DM forgot is that I roll like shit. So they came out, cast a spell that my cleric should be, fucking easy. 2 nat ones. I had advantage, 2 nat ones.
Great.
Cool. I was incapacitated for the whole fight, which means that they had to basically do the entire fight without the person who was designed to deal with this encounter. And that made it, like, they almost died because of that. And it was, I think, it was round 4 that I, like, finally passed my save, which is crazy, rolling with advantage 4 times and not passing a DC 10. Like, I had, like, a +5 DC 10. I just had to roll a 5 on one of 2 dice. Couldn't do it.
Have you ever rolled higher than a 5 in your life, though?
Yes.
On the other game where he had to roll.
When he had to roll 20.
Yes. Or if I'm just rolling for fun. If there's nothing like on the line, my dice will roll quite well. The minute it's like, oh yeah,
really
you need to roll or this happens. Yeah, no, dog shit rolls.
Yeah.
No, but Candela Obscura does sound,
It sounds awesome.
Does sound pretty
Yeah,
sweet.
it sounds awesome.
I'd be definitely
It's pretty
interested
cool.
in trying that out. So if you're ever wanting to run a game and you're in need of players, give me a shout.
And then that's another thing, going back to what you were saying about threads. I have, like, a lot of those one-shots that I have been doing have just been a bunch of people on threads that are just like, hey, I'm interested in doing that. So I was like, you interested in streaming? They're like, yeah, let's do it. Cool. So I will put you on the casting list. Because
Definitely. Give me a shout.
I have a lot more in mind that I want to be making. So
yeah, definitely. It sounds good, and if it's every time I've played Blades in the Dark, it's been an absolute fucking riot. Just because of the way the system is kind of built. I mean, the first one, it was literally I was GMing and playing as well, because there was two of us, so we built the characters and went, you know what, it's still early. Shall we just
run
fuck
something?
Around?
Yeah.
So I came up with a quick sort of heist. Oh my God, it went so fucking wrong so fucking quickly. It was amazing.
As it does.
It was, people died. They weren't meant to die, but people died. It was a simple smuggling operation and people died.
Well,
it was fun. It was phenomenal.
TTRPGs.
Yeah. I just love my character for Blades in the Dark because he's awesome.
He is an awesome character.
I've gone with he's like a 1920s style detective.
Heck yeah. That's amazing. I love it.
Even talks like a 1920s gangster with a nashi.
Yeah. Love it. Oh my God.
If when we do actually get around to if we get around to playing that and you do not keep that up the entire session,
I'm
going to punish you.
That's fine. Do it. Bring it.
All right, shall we take a wander over to the couch?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right, Jonny, the couch is where we're going to answer some listener questions.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
If you wouldn't mind helping us out with that.
Absolutely. I would love it.
Right, Justin, do you have any questions for us?
I have 3 questions.
And I've got 4.
Fuck.
Let's do it.
All right, but I still think we should roll for initiative.
Yeah, we should. We should.
All right, so...
It's annoying because one of my questions is actually for you.
What, one's for me?
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, okay, so I'm going to pull out the dice here. Right, you get to choose between green or purple.
Green, because purple's your favorite.
All right, but I'm not going to be using
Justin's not rolling? Oh, man. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I'm not going to be using...
It will still roll badly. Watch.
I'm not going to be rolling purple today. I'm going to be rolling...
Oh, your new one. Your new one.
New phylactery dice from Cryptic Crits.
Ooh,
this is the first time
It's so
I'm
nice.
rolling this dice.
That's so cool.
All right. That is fantastic. I'm in love with it.
Yeah.
If it rolls shit, then that's another matter. But all right, so rolling for initiative. All right, so mine rolled a 3.
Let me guess. I rolled a 1.
No, fuck you. You rolled an 18.
Hey, look at that. Your luck is turning around. Go get a lottery ticket.
Just going to pinch myself real quick.
Yeah, right.
No, I'm awake. Wow.
You're not dreaming. You're here.
Oh, fuck.
All right.
Okay.
Can I just point out, please do not hold that against Cryptic Crits dice because it's still fucking phenomenal. There was a 1 in 20 chance of that happening.
Right.
It happens.
Well, my first question, I'll start with the one for you because I think that's only fair. It was also the first one that they sent me.
All right.
So this is from Sci-Fi, who's going wild on Kickstarter. He's doing a U, and I'm going to take full credit for that because, as we've established, I like taking credit for people spending money.
Cool.
So Sci-Fi asks, what is the best change of the Pathfinder remaster?
You know what I'm going to say.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
The
minute I read that question, I was tempted to just send him a message saying he's going to say this.
Fuck alignment.
Yep.
Dude, oh my God, they're getting rid of it.
It's gone.
It's gone.
It's not getting rid of. It's gone. They don't have alignment anymore in Pathfinder.
Alignment has been so
pointless
for so many years.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, speaking specifically to D&D, like alignment's been useful to like. For me, the only use I've ever had for it was like explaining lawful evil for devils. Lawful, they're following a code. Evil, they're fucking evil.
Yeah.
Like that's like the only time that I've ever been able to like appropriately use alignment. Outside of that, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Be whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just an archaic system that really doesn't hold any relevance anymore.
No.
Especially in kind of the newer wave of TTRPGs, which are a lot more narrative, a lot more character driven. You know, to have these things which at the same time are very limiting, but hard to define as well. It makes no point it even existing. And the fact that they've removed it, oh, so happy.
Yeah.
There was also, I remember watching Matt, the other Matt, not Matt Mercer. Jeez.
Coville?
Coville.
Yeah.
Matt Coville's How to DM like series.
Yeah,
and he talks about how like alignment back then used to be like you have this kind of spell that you can use, or this like spell list that you can use, and there's like a language that you have for your alignment for whatever reason. And you like if you break that, you have to like move up. There's like a whole mess of mechanics that they had with alignment
and then
that they've gotten rid of since then, and now it's just useless. It's just like I'm chaotic good, I guess.
Yeah. And that was like the thing that I always like hated is people saying like that they would build a character out and then they would just act like a dick and be like, yeah, but I'm chaotic, so it's fine. It's like, no, you're just being a dick. Right. Yeah. Like there's a difference.
It became the whole
what my character would do.
I was literally just about to mention that. My advice for anyone who says that is to say to them, don't do what your character would do what you would do as your character.
Yeah.
And that's what my character would do this. Your character's a knob.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I straight up tell, like, that's session 0 right there. It's like, do not do that. Don't overtake somebody's spotlight that we're doing. Don't steal things from other players. Don't fight other players unless we've already like came to an agreement at the table. This is okay. The only reason why I say that is because I have had multiple occasions where we've had PC to PC fighting. Absolutely 0 of them came out unscathed. 0. Because somebody's going to have like feelings hurt because, you know, they have a lot of, you know, stake in their character. And then to have it end in this certain way in most likely, let's be real, most likely a bullshit way is just super anticlimactic. And also sometimes PC v PC fights come from player v player interparty conflicts.
Yeah,
that's always a fun mess to deal with.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
In my homebrew campaign, I had a recent situation in which there was PvP. And that was all narratively driven. It was because one of the characters had basically been possessed for levels and levels ago, and he'd been carrying this. But in the sort of background, he'd been doing things, not necessarily to undermine any character, but to kind of further his goals. He was basically possessed by this worshipper of a god whose main edict is to get other people to fall. So this guy spent levels and levels talking to the party cleric. Going, so, you know, what do you think of doing that? What do you think of doing this? And just adding little things. And it all came to light that this is what I'd been doing. And we stopped the game. We said, right, this is where this is leading. How does everybody feel? And it wasn't until we got like a consensus of, this makes sense. This is how we would react. This is how we should resolve this. And all right, let's unpause and let's carry on. And it actually did turn out pretty well. But I have also had the opposite where one player, out of sort of spite towards another player, has done things in character, and then it's just time to go, oi, behave yourself.
Yeah. And it's always best, it's always best to nip that shit right at the bud. Like, if you see something that's like weird and you're feeling weird, talk to the other players, be like, hey, what do you guys feel? If everybody's on a consensus, that's when you have to come together and talk about it. Because If you don't talk about it, it just gets worse. It doesn't ever get better.
Yep.
It doesn't. It always gets worse.
I think, it goes back to the advice we've pretty much always said is just talk, be adults, use your mouth, use your words, talk.
The use your mouth thing.
I heard it. That's why I switched. Shut up.
You said it and I immediately went, huh. What sort of games are you? I
said it as well. I was like, nope, not that.
Well, damn. And that's on the internet.
Yep.
That is, and it is going to be a soundbite.
Yep. I did so well to avoid the soundbite last week.
It's going to probably be the title of this episode.
Yep.
Hell yeah, use your mouth.
Use your mouth. Yep.
Use your mouth.
So good.
Cool. Well, hopefully that answers that question.
All right. Okay, so my first question is going to be from Corvus, who's writing to us from Dunova. Why are there so few trees? Someone needs to have a word with the landscaper.
Oh.
All right. So, as a relatively new GM, I struggle with finding ways of making personal character arcs interesting for specific PCs. What advice would you give to someone who completely new to the role and wants to make the most of the characters given to you, even if they have an extremely minimal backstory?
Oh, that's your first issue. That is your biggest issue, really. If you don't have a backstory for your player, if you don't have any stake that your that character has in the world that you're playing in, there is absolutely fuck all that you can make for their arc. They can have, I was once a prisoner and I want to become like the king or whatever the fuck it is. I don't know. You can have like a pretty vague arc, but if there's no backstory, that's not on you as the GM. That is on them as the player. They need to come up with something. They need to help. It's more collaborative than it is on the GM to create the story.
Yeah.
That's the first issue.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I lean more in the favor of vagueness, but give me something.
Yeah.
Give me something to work with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, in the Rune Lords game, one player came to me and just said, okay, I want my character to have amnesia. I want him to be from this part of the world. I want him to have amnesia, which was a mistake because I fucked him over because it gave me carte blanche to do whatever I wanted.
Yep.
But yeah, just keep it vague and then we can workshop things together.
I think that's the key is, like you've both said, it's collaborative, right? So they'll come up with a rough concept that you can then flesh out little bits of, but flesh them out with them. So if you come up with an idea to do with their backstory, just say to them, hey, I'm thinking of doing something. Don't give it all away because obviously you want some of it to be like, aha, surprise. But like the rough idea or the rough concept and be like, this is what I'm thinking. How do you feel about that? Because then they also then feel invested in what you're creating for their character as well.
Yeah. I think one of the things to also like a great way to do that and to just talk about, the characters is setting up those session zeros, but more than that, setting up follow-up one-on-one sessions. Like, it's so hard in this day and age to just communicate over text, and I'm just assuming that's what this person is doing because that's how 99% of the population communicates at this point, is either over Discord or text. And if that is how you're communicating, it is so difficult to send really big concepts over text. And it's such a huge task that I understand why players are just like, I don't really want to have to write this whole thing. I get it. Set up a time that you and that other player, and then, work yourself down the line of sessions that you can talk about your character. Are you a prisoner? If you have amnesia, do you want to have that evil background? Maybe. And, just throw like vague stuff out so that they know, because I know specifically I had a plan for one character and it was not what they wanted, but I didn't know how to communicate that without giving it away. So also asking your character, your players, do you want spoilers? Do you want to know where this storyline is going? If they do, tell them. Don't. You can hold bits back, but like try to tell them, because sometimes those people are like super invested in the story, and they want to be able to tell, whatever story they have and follow that storyline.
Yeah, I completely agree. In terms of how much heavy lifting the GM has to do, I think it does have to be at least a 50-50, if not a 60-40 on the part of the player. The player comes up with ideas, the GM facilitates.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And my preference for vagueness is then because I find it easier to make the necessary connections with the story rather than shoehorning something in. So I hope we've answered that, Corvus.
Yeah. Right. My next one, also from Sci-Fi, surprise, surprise, who is also looking at Humble Bundles 2. Why is Black Friday so close to Thanksgiving and Christmas? Asked us a question, I think mainly aimed at the D&D people here, not so much yourself on this one. But
fuck myself then, shall I?
Well, no, you can still answer it, but do you restrict characters buying uncommon and rare items?
That's a Pathfinder thing.
Well, no, he asked if it works the same in D&D, so he did specify D&D.
It's both.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's the same in both, really. It depends on, one, the item, and two, the setting and stuff as well, because in some settings, those kind of items just are a lot harder to come by, and in others, like, it might be listed in the book as a rare item, but realistically, it's not. There's some in D&D that are listed as, like, super rare items, but it's like a really common ring that you see in every single book that they publish. So how rare is it at that point? So yeah, it depends on the item, and it depends on the reasoning behind them buying it as well. If they're buying it just because it's like to power game, probably not. If they're buying it for a genuine reason, then I'm a little bit more inclined to do so. So yeah, it depends would be my answer.
What do you say, Jonny?
So, specifically to D&D, common items usually don't do much. So like there's like a cloak of bellowing where like at any point you can make your cloak
just
feel
flaps.
like there's like air. So good. But like a lot of common items, they don't really have a lot of uses outside of just like cosmetic stuff, which that kind of stuff always I will allow my players to buy for sure. Uncommon items, that's when you start getting into like the more useful stuff, because like I think the cloak of protection, I can't remember. I feel like the cloak of protection is
I have a character with one, bear with me.
If not, it's a rare item and I'm just off. But I think that, just like Justin said, it really depends on the setting that you're playing in, because if you're making like a Game of Thrones type really low fantasy setting, they probably don't even have magic items. Like you might have like the dragon glass, and that's it. Like there's nothing else that you can have. If you're playing high fantasy, then yeah, it could be just like Justin said, rare is freaking common in your world, and that's totally fine. You could be a power gamer, and that's totally fine. I don't think there's a right answer. I think it really fits to whatever you want to play with in your style of gameplay. Yeah.
My default sort of stance on this is the common items are the things you can buy in shops. When it comes to uncommon and rare, they're the things you find or are given. However, I do facilitate my players, and I think in the online games, I've actually got it's called Forian's Quest log on Foundry, where players can go in and they create their own quest, but I use it as a wish list. So a player can kind of go, I'd like to find this item at some point. And what I will do is I will see if I can kind of weave that into the story somehow. See if they meet an NPC with whom they get on with, and that NPC as they're leaving goes, I want you to have this. And there you go. There's the item.
Yeah.
If not, it might get randomly rolled. I say randomly because I will throw that in.
Yeah. I mean,
but that's my default stance. Anything common you can buy, but anything like uncommon, rare, or unique, those are things that you find.
I think as well for like the stuff that's, not as common, it can also lead to a really cool kind of quest line, as you were just saying there, John. Like they can go into like a blacksmith and be like, hey, I really want to get this type of armor. And he'd be like, well, I can make it for you, but I don't have the stuff. And then it becomes a fetch quest, right? Of you need to go and kill that and do that and get the stuff from over there. And then as a party, you can all go, yeah, we don't really want to do that. Or, yeah, that sounds like it'll be a lot of fun, and go and do it. And then it becomes a big thing rather than just walk into a shop, throw down a ton of gold and walk out with power up, right?
Yeah. I did a fetch quest with a deck of many things. They were level 5, I think.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was. It was fun though. It was super fun. Honestly, this is another Matt Colville thing where it's like so many campaigns fizzle out. Just fucking do it.
Yeah,
just fucking do it.
Just do it.
Like it's gonna create chaos. It's gonna be fun. Your friends are gonna talk about it. Like even to this day, me and one of my other friends, like we talk about. He pulled 6 cards from the deck of many things in a row. It was and didn't die. Wild. It was wild. Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah. But like we still talk about that to this day, and we don't really talk about like whatever freaking. Oh, I hit a nat 20 on this like dragon thing. Like it's always
the chaos. Like,
the crazy shit. Yeah, the chaos. Yeah.
Yeah, I do like to play with all the toys in the toy box.
It's true, he does.
That's my GM stat. I'll see. That's going to be fun.
It's also why it's like really easy for me to like get him to spend money. I'm like, just think of all the new toys. He's like,
Yeah. I've already spent my money this month.
Yep, that's fine. Next month starts soon.
All right. Okay. So my next question. Is from this is my second question, isn't it? Yeah, okay, this is Couch.
Oh, the man himself.
The man himself. Planet Vulcan was the reference to Marty McFly's speech to his dad in the past.
Yes.
I fucking missed that.
Yes. I didn't.
So did you?
No, I didn't. I was just choosing to let you have your moment.
I knew all along. Fuck off. All right, so with the changes to game systems and reworkings, is there any skills in any system that still don't make sense to you? And an example that Couch has put up. For example, I still think survival is a skill that doesn't need to be a thing. A trained adventurer should be able to find things with a good perception check instead. Yeah. So anything that you skill-wise think could be like either reworked or just flat out got rid of?
Yeah, I think intimidation as a skill, I don't like, because there are so many different ways to intimidate people, right? You can do it through a physical show of strength. You can use your words. There's so many different ways that you can do it. That having it tied to charisma just feels a bit like to stand there and tell me that a barbarian who's dumped charisma would not be intimidating, being the big hulking Goliath that he is. Bullshit.
So there is a way around that, but it's not readily available for everybody to know, where it's like you use your strength instead of your charisma.
Yeah.
But on the sheet, it's
charisma.
Intimidation.
Yeah, charisma. Exactly, yeah.
So any like newbie players or newbie GMs are just looking at that and saying, well, sorry.
That's what it says. Exactly.
Just isn't intimidating, I guess. Yeah.
So that's something that I always house rule to be. You tell me how you're going to intimidate them and I'll tell you what to roll. And I guess that goes back to the intimidation shouldn't really be a skill. It should just be you tell me how you're going to intimidate and then you do a roll of that type. For me personally, because it just
I agree.
And obviously alignment, as we've already discussed.
Of course, alignment. Yeah, that one's I'm trying to. So one of the things that I personally don't understand with skill checks is a strength check versus an athletics check. So why is there athletics, which is your feats of strength and your athleticism and abilities of, physical prowess, whatever. But when you're trying to break a lock, that's a strength check, straight strength. I don't quite understand why that's a difference. I feel like athletics should cover breaking locks, breaking open a door, or running into a wall for whatever reason to break it down, like stuff like that.
Kool-Aid Man
should be under athletics. But then I also understand why it's not, because then you have, oh my God, in Ravenloft Mist-fits, it's a little bit later, so it's a bit of a spoiler, but there's a character that's a barbarian rogue. And they expertised into athletics.
So fun.
So they're just wicked good at athletics checks. So that's a point where it's like, okay, if you're putting a DC 20s, athletics check, they're gonna get it pretty much every single time. That's one thing, but yeah, that's one where I feel like there's a bit of a
disconnect,
mismatch. Yeah. I feel like there needs to be a better resolution with that.
Yeah, I mean, in Pathfinder 2e, that is the case where you need to break a lock, you roll athletics. There are no straight up ability rolls. Everything is tied to a skill.
Yeah.
One that I always disagreed with, which has been fixed in the system that I play at least, but I do believe it still may be a thing. I don't know. I know it's a thing in first edition Pathfinder, where it was perception was a skill.
Yeah, it's still a skill. Yeah.
How do you train on noticing things? How do you train on seeing things better?
Have you never heard of detectives who spend their entire life learning how to look at things better?
Yeah, it's
that
not
would be
looking at things.
It would be investigation. I know.
Yeah, I mean,
I think for me with that, it's like you have a passive perception that's so high, but then you can roll and end up lower than your passive. Like if you weren't trying to look for it, you would have spotted it, but because you're trying to look for it, you missed it. That I hate.
I mean, I'm not against perception being its own specific role, but for example, in second edition, you just get perception. When you level up, your perception goes up.
And then you just automatically see. And then
it's not something that you have to choose to spend skill.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that would be an issue. I think that, honestly, I mean, yeah, I agree with Justin where it's like, if you're taking 10 and it's, like the passive perception is higher than the roll that you make. Fuck.
I mean, so
what was the point of rolling?
Yeah. So the way I kind of house rule that is, you will never score lower than your passive perception. So I'll get them to roll it, and it's their passive perception or higher at that point.
Yeah,
because
I think that's a great way.
Yeah, their passive perception is what they're just going to see anyway. But if they happen to be looking for something particular, they're going to spot that particular thing because they've rolled better than their passive. So that's kind of how I get around that, because there is nothing worse as well than like being on guard for the night and you're like sitting there and then it's like, yeah, you don't see anything.
Yeah.
And then
totally fine.
Everything's fine. And then like 10 bandits just kill you.
Right.
It's like, what was their stealth roll? Like 12. But my passive perception's a 32. It's like, cool. You still didn't see them. Yeah, like, no.
Yeah.
And like you said, Jonny, about 5e, there is in Pathfinder 2nd edition as well, and it's very hidden, so you need to know where to look. There is the rule that says the GM can determine a different ability modifier for said skill. But yeah, I think that should be a bit more prominent.
Yeah.
I think those rulings should be a bit more easier to find. And every time we talk about skills, I always, without fail, mention what is up until now my favorite skill system, and that is our friend Malin's Bind.
Yes.
Where he's got a selection of skills, thievery, stealth, you know, your usual,
The usual suspects.
and it's set out in a table. So, for example, like the different skills can be attributed to different abilities depending on what you want to do.
Yeah.
So, for example, climbing, you can have it tied to strength, where it's how athletic you are, but you can also tie it to intelligence of how well you're going to work out a path.
Plan your route and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
It is a phenomenal skill system.
Awesome.
Yeah. And honestly, like after like chatting with him about that, I've actually incorporated that kind of mindset into, if my players can give me a valid reason for using a different skill, I let them.
Yeah. And that's why I personally as a DM don't like when a player is saying, can I roll a history check, or can I do an arcana check? It's like, well, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
That's what it really depends on. Tell me what you want to do narratively, and I'll tell, because perception and investigation are so similar, but also so distinct that if you know the difference between them, you know when you need to roll which, and a lot of players don't understand that difference. And so they're saying, oh, well, can I do a perception check? It's like, well,
what are you trying to do? Yeah.
There's also one other skill thing that I don't like, which is that nature is intelligence. I don't understand why it's intelligence, because you have druids and rangers, and I mean clerics if they take the nature side. All of them are wisdom.
Yeah, they're all wisdom-based casters.
So they're fucking useless when it comes to nature rolls. And you're telling me that a druid that has spent their entire life in nature
can turn
doesn't
into
know
animals.
About nature. That's a bunch of bullshit.
You can become an animal. What kind of animal is that?
They work.
But you
what animal are you?
Exactly. Something.
It's got 4 legs. That's what I know.
I got 4 of these things, and I meow.
Exactly. That's one of the things that I've always had like an issue with. Like I get it. I get why it's intelligence, but also
it shouldn't be. Yeah, it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. It should be wisdom.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Right, my final question.
All right, go for it. I got 2 more in the can.
Also from Sci-Fi, who is sitting on his hands because she cannot take no more, Captain. That's not going to be a soundbite. We've already got a soundbite. But he wants to know what the best deal or offer we have seen for Black Friday is.
Ooh, all right.
In general, this year I actually didn't really look on Black Friday very much.
Me neither.
I didn't look too much at tabletop role-playing games. However, I'm just going to get the guy's name up because he deserves a shout-out because he did a Justin and made me spend money.
Nice.
Is it Grey Castle Press on Threads?
Oh, yeah.
He's the guy who published Jonny, like the solo world building, which, by the way, I've bought, which is fantastic. That's beside the point. But he posted a Black Friday deal for a software set of graphic design tools called Affinity. There is a photo manipulation, there is a vector drawing program, and there is a publishing program. And yeah, it was like $95.
And you just have the license.
Yeah, you've got, not only do I have the license, but that license allows me to have it on both my Macs and my iPad.
That's
pretty good.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's rare.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
That's really good.
It's, I'm pretty sure it was great. Yeah, Grey Castle Press. So he made me spend money.
No, that's
I don't like people
valid.
who spend money. But yeah, that was a good offer. I have seen, I think Paizo were doing a 15% thing. I went on drive-through today, and there's one for you, Justin. The new Fabulultima book, Fabulultima Atlas. They've got it on there for £11.
Oh, I don't have money till Wednesday.
I think Renegade Game Studios also had a Black Friday. I'm looking it up right now. Yeah, save up to 90%, but we always know that isn't exactly right. They have a bunch of games like the Power Rangers TTRPG, the Transformers TTRPG. I had gotten an email. I can't remember how much it was though, and of course now I'm struggling to find it on their list of stuff that they have up to 90%, but I wanted to say that it was like 40% off.
That's not bad.
Something crazy. Yeah.
I'm just keying up their website. Not that I'm going to spend any money.
No, of course not. No, definitely not. Definitely not. I'm going to get a text in like an hour's time. I spent money.
I bought this thing.
It's like when I bought the dice. It was a picture of the dice and the word "fuck."
That's literally all he sent me.
Oh, speaking of those dice, Cryptic Crits actually has a sale on. So if you're going to get some fancy dice like mine, now's the time.
Yeah, and they do look really, really good.
They're fucking so nice.
Right.
They had made some specific dice for our Candela game too. We never got it because there were some complications, but they sent me like the concept of it. It looked so cool. It looked so cool. I'll bug them and post a Candela set so that
definitely.
Can start getting
definitely.
Right, but that's me all done for the old questions. So I guess you get to back yours now.
I get to back mine. Okay, so the first one is a question directly for Jonny.
Oh.
All right. This is from Erica Onderwin from Threads. Actually, she's actually got how to pronounce that in her bio. So thank you, Eric. Thank you, Erica. That was very helpful. Okay, so her question for Jonny is, what initially drew you to the Candela Obscura system, and what keeps you?
So I think, it actually starts a little bit before Candela. I have always been like a really big Critical Role person. I delved into it in campaign 2, and then I've just been in it since then. But they started announcing the Candela Obscura stuff, and so I thought, I'm a content creator. This is a great opportunity to, start with what I want to be doing on the side of my, actual plays, which is like making videos of how to play TTRPGs and things like that. So that's what initially got me into it, was that I like Critical Role, and they came up with that new thing. But what keeps me there is the difference in running that I have in Candela that I don't have in D&D. Candela is a lot more cinematic and a lot more, I think it's a lot more player driven. Like the way that I prep Candela Obscura is vastly different than how I prep D&D, because D&D you have those dungeon crawls that are very baked into that system because there are specific abilities that you can use in those dungeon crawls and specific combat things that you can do. It's something that, like with Candela, it's very broad. I show you what is happening in this room, and you go ahead and figure out what you want to look at. I have clues. I don't have what's exactly in this room. And a lot of that comes into like improv, which, some GMs might have an issue with. I understand that. But I mean, you could prep it however you want. But for me, I really like the light work that comes with prepping and GMing this game. And I like that. I like the Eldritch Horror. I figured out that I like doing horror games a lot. I never really knew that until I started like running Curse of Strahd, and I was like, oh yeah, this is why I've always wanted to run it. Okay, got it. And then I got Candela Obscura. I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, this is my thing. Cool, right on. So yeah, I really like the lightweight that the GM has to do. It's such a simple TTRPG. Like I explained it to you in like 5 minutes on how to play the game. You just go make a character and boom, you're done. Like you get to play something. Yeah, I think that's what keeps me in Candela Obscura.
You've definitely sold me on it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely itching to give it a whirl, and I do get what you mean regarding the game prep. The sort of games I run are either going to be Pathfinder, Delta Green, Blades in the Dark, Cypher. They all have very specific ways of prepping. Delta Green is information. You've got a ton of information, and everything else is whether those players access that. Blades in the Dark, which is going to be very similar to Candela, is you get your points. You get your starting point, your complications, what they're looking for, and everything else is going to come out with improv and with dice rolls.
Right.
And I think it's fantastic. It just eases the burden on the GM. And I do like a bit of player interaction and player agency in the world that I run.
Mm-hmm.
But
I
yeah,
think the tension too. The tension is a big deal too. I was kind of like going back, and I love those moments where it's like, are you gonna die right now? Like, probably, like, you might, who knows? But it's like, it's always in question whether you're gonna make it or not. And I like those high stakes things, whereas like in D&D,
yeah, you don't really get them very often.
They're gonna live. They're gonna live. And if they died, they're gonna live anyways because there's Revivify. So like, there's not a whole lot at stake. Like there is, but there isn't. So
I think what kind of draws me to horror, and this is kind of just bouncing off what you said regarding the tension, is that regardless of the type of game you're playing, if you're doing horror, it's very easy to understand. It's very easy to get into the mindset. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you're playing Pathfinder and you're delving in a dungeon, you're a fucking superhero with a sword. So it's hard to put yourself in those shoes. But when you are in a situation where an eldritch abomination is coming out of the corner of the room, and that happened, you can very easily, as a player, go, oh, fuck, we need to run.
Yeah.
This isn't something that we're going to, there is no chance sort of thing.
Right.
And I think it's very easy to make that connection, and players get a lot more invested. And I love running horror.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with like making it more modern setting too, whereas like it's more applicable as well. Like what you're saying, where it's like, yeah, okay, this giant creature, I'm just fucking Joe Schmo. I'm not going to be able to take that. Let's get in the car and let's get the fuck out of here. Yeah, 100%. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, you've definitely sold me on it.
Well, good.
All right,
Justin is happy.
I'm not going to buy it just yet, Justin. I've got
Lies.
I've got to buy Christmas presents first.
All right.
Quick start guide.
I'll allow it.
It's free.
I'll allow it.
The quick guide. I'll take a look at the quick guide.
Yeah.
All right. So my last question of the evening comes from Constant Connell or Connell. I don't know how he pronounces that. Next time I will have to ask him. But we'll go with Constant Connell. He's someone I've interacted with massively on Threads. Such a great fucking guy. So he asks, and I love this question, when was the golden age of tabletop role-playing games? What made it that way? And do you think the hobby is getting better by whatever definition you choose, or worse? All right, what do you guys think?
I might have an interesting take, but I think we are in the golden age.
I was about to say the same thing, I'm not going to lie.
I think we are in that golden age where we are learning from past mistakes of making things that are, sexist or racist or
all of the ists,
all of them. We're taking all of those bad concepts, revising them and deleting them, and then creating something that is better. Not only that, and John, I know you're going to hate this, but D&D brought in a lot of people. D&D 5e brought in a lot of people, and not just D&D 5e, Critical Role, and Stranger Things.
Yes.
Specifically, those two powerhouses brought in a bunch of people. And yes, a lot of those people stayed in D&D, but like me, they actually branched out and they found other types of TTRPGs. When you learn like one thing, of course, I know that there's like the abomination of applying it to other systems when there's a system specifically for that. But I think that right now, with how many people are here and how versatile these stories are and how much we're leaning into the narrative side of things rather than the boom, boom, shoot 'em up kind of thing, I think right now it's the golden age of TTRPG.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. That's kind of what I was umming and ahhing about whether I could say it, but now that you've said it, I don't mind agreeing with it. Because like, I think like, especially now with the accessibility of it all as well, it's just so much easier to get into this as a hobby as well. It's no longer kind of one of those things that, you know, the nerdy kids are doing in their mom's basement anymore. And like, it used to have all of these negative like connotations that it's just not. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are still some people who think that way. That's not going to change for a very long time, but it's becoming a lot more sort of out there and open for people to get involved in. And the community as well isn't so guarded on who they let in these days as well, to a degree, right? I mean, again, it used to be a case of if somebody who didn't fit that stereotype tried to play, everyone would be like, no. Whereas now people are like, yeah, fucking come along, like join in.
Right.
Yeah. And there's so many systems and stuff available now that if you do come in through 5e and don't enjoy it, there's going to be something else that'll, float your boat. Like, John, you tried 5e, wasn't for you, you stuck with Pathfinder. Happy days. I came in through Pathfinder and ended up in 5e. Like, there's so many ways to kind of come in and then go, oh, this is quite fun, but this system isn't quite for me. Type it into Google. Oh, look at all of these other ones.
Right.
And then suddenly...
Yeah, I mean, fantasy alone has like 20, no, more than 20 different types that you can play and try and find the one that you specifically like that it doesn't just end with D&D.
Yeah.
I also agree. I think we are living in the golden age. I think what a time to be a tabletop role player. Yeah. There's no other way about it. And I do know some veterans of the hobby who probably disagree and probably kind of go, no, when AD&D first came out, and don't get me wrong, that was a big moment, that was a big shift in the popular culture and the popular lexicon, but the shift has happened again, and it's bigger and it's more and it's bolder and it's got a wider net than it ever has before. And yes, I will give credit where credit is due. The Adventure Zone, which was the first popular actual play, Critical Role, which was like 3 months later, and that came out, and that just seeing the following that has. And then even to their credit, 5e. 5e was the entry point for a lot of people. It just so happened that the person that brought us into the hobby was a Pathfinder player. But that could have gone either way quite easily. And I could be sat here and not worried about the Pinkertons knocking at my fucking door. But we've got to a point now where certain behaviors in this community are called out. Certain gatekeeping, certain behaviors, certain attitudes, it's like, no, you need to fucking stop. This game is better than it ever was before because of the wider net, because of the different voices, the different perspectives that this hobby has now, which it didn't before. And 100%, we are in the golden age, and from my opinion, it is only going to get better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, to talk a little bit more about that point, like there are more just diverse creators now that it's not just that Western European Lord of the Rings type of fantasy setting anymore. Like, oh shit, I don't know his social media. I'll have to look it up, but I'll have it by the end of this. But Emerald Templars, I think, just came out. It's a new, D'Angelo Murillo. Emerald Templars is a new TTRPG that just came out that I believe is, I want to say Salvadorian, but I think I'm wrong. But I know regardless, there are a lot more like diverse type of storytelling things that you can do because of different cultures that are bringing in their cultures to this game, and you can then explore them respectfully. Which is completely different from Oriental Adventures. Way back when.
I think as well, like with the growth in player base will also come a growth in creators as well, right? Because people are going to come into this and then they might see someone go, there is a gap here that doesn't represent my culture and where I'm from. I could build something that does. And then ta-da, new system, new game, new stories, new everything again. So yeah, I absolutely think that it's only going to go up from here. And I think we are definitely in that golden bubble right now.
Yeah. Yeah, what a time to be playing this game.
Absolutely.
Just to follow up, so it is just different cultures, and it's mainly just to represent anybody that has dark brown skin. Anybody that's not fucking white, because that we have so many of those out there that this was something. Oh, and it was funded on Kickstarter under 24 hours. Jeez. And going back to the question that we had, there is a Black Friday deal. I believe it's 20 or 30% off.
God damn it.
So just keep that in mind.
Just keep that in mind, John. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep that in mind. I'm having a look. Thanksgiving weekend.
Honestly, my only goal in every one of these recordings is to get John to spend money. That is all I'm here to do. That is all I'm here to do. It's the only reason I agreed to even do this podcast in the first place.
Honestly, I think we succeeded. Quite a few times, actually.
I'm on drive through.
There you go. Yeah. It's already there. We're good.
Well, while I'm doing that, I think it's about time we close.
Yes.
So I want to thank everyone who sent in questions. So that's Corvus, Sci-Fi, Erica, Couch, and Constant Cannell. Huge thank you to Jonny for coming here and slumming it with us for a bit.
Of course. I had a lot of fun.
It's been absolutely amazing to get to know you, and definitely keep me in mind for some of that Candela Obscura stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have quite a few different ideas coming forward, so I will have more one-shots coming forward as well. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. As always, I'd like to thank my co-host, Justin, for spending some time with us this evening.
All right.
All right. Do you want to tell people where they can find you on the internet?
Yeah, go on then. So you can find me pretty much anywhere at Just an Accurate TV. I also stream playing video games and stuff sometimes on Twitch, but not that often at the moment. And obviously on our Facebook page and in the Discord as well.
Thank you. And Jonny, do you want to tell people where they can find you and what sort of things they can find you doing?
Yeah. I'm the creator of TalkingXP. So you can find me on social media at TalkingXP. I am always running the Ravenloft Mist-fits, so if you're interested in Curse of Strahd and you are not into D&D like John might be, but you're interested in horror and Curse of Strahd and vampires and gothic horror and all that stuff, check out that campaign. We're on episode like 73 or something like that, so there's plenty of content, and I like to make sure that it is under 3 hours, so it's not Critical Role, usually hitting around like 2 hours, so just keeping that in mind. But outside of that, I'm running Candela Obscura pretty often. And outside of that, I'm mainly on Threads. I'm on TikTok as well. Mainly on Threads right now. I kind of haven't been doing too many TikTok videos recently. It's just such a chore, man. But anyways, yeah. Just find me on there. Say hey.
As for me, you can find me at Natural Juan at dice.camp on Mastodon. You can also find me. I'm the person that is behind our social media presence on Threads, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok. But I am most active on Threads because I think it's safe to say I've found my home on there, and it is fantastic. Coming up next week, we're going to make a few changes to the show.
Yes.
So definitely look out for that. I'm going to keep people updated during the course of the week. Coming up in a couple of weeks, we're going to have a one-shot with our friends over at Crossing the Nerdverse, where I'm going to be running a very Christmas episode of Blades in the Dark, which is going to be fucking phenomenal.
So good.
And what else? We also now have a merch store.
Yes.
If you guys want to check it out. We go to our link tree. We've got. I haven't done all the integrations with our website yet, but still working on that. But we do have a shirt and a mug up there. If you like what you've heard tonight, don't hesitate to give us a review. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what you disliked. Give us a rating, and more importantly, tell your friends. You know, the only way we can grow is if more people actually pay attention. And lastly, I just want to give the biggest thank you to everybody who has taken time out of their busy days to listen to two absolute idiots waffle on about tabletop role-playing podcasts, this time with a guest who does know what he's talking about. Thank you very much. Good night.
See you later, guys.
Bye.